Joseph, go ahead.
The king assigned them a daily ration of food and wine from his own kitchens. They were to be trained for 3 years and then they would enter the royal service.
So, right here, he's basically pampered by the king. Although, of course, he just got cut and he just got captured, he's not treated like a captive. He's not thrown in a dungeon. He's basically pampered by the king. And he's not treated like scum. He's not in a dungeon. And anything he's offered, for example, the king's food, the king's wine, this is all from his own kitchen. I mean, not even the residents in Babylon are eating the king's food, The New American Standard says, from the king's choice food and wine, in which the king ate and which he drank. So it sounds like they're treated pretty good, but of course they're still held against their will, but they're comfortable. And just like we probably heard here many times, if you're going to look for the positive things, you're going to find it. If you're going to look for the negative things, you're going to find it. So it's a good way to try to, whatever position you're in, try to look for the positive. To enter the king's service, what do you guys think that means? To be part of the king's service? Anyone?
Right. You picked above everybody else.
Right. But to be in the king's service, to be in it? Clint?
Well, there's different branches of the king's service. He has like astronomers and people that tell prophecies and magicians, and then he has people that write scribes, and then he has guards. So
Yeah, you're right.
to basically be at the king's beck and call, I guess.
You're right. Robert?
I was going to say be a part of ceremonies, but Clint pretty much summed that up.
Like the king's personal slave.
Yeah.
This is my guy. No, you don't take care of nobody else but me.
Yeah. It could be all of that is right. It was something along the line of being an advisor of some sort. Really, you're going to end up doing whatever the king wants of you. You're going to live in the king's palace. You're going to do, so you could be anywhere from a butler. You could pick up the dog's poop. You could sign contracts, sign stuff. You're going to be anything that the king wants you to be, and that's pretty much what it means to be part of the royal service. His personal slave. You could work in the kitchen, prep his food. That's all being part of being in the king's service. So, so many things. You could write letters for him. So Daniel, so Daniel could be any of these to the king, and we'll find out what he is. Let's see how his training goes. So, does anybody read verse 6 through 7? Robert?
Among these were Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah of the tribe of Judah. And the chief of the eunuchs gave them names. Daniel he called Belshazzar, Hananiah he called Shadrach, Mishael he called Meshach, and Azariah he called Abednego.
Amen. Thank you. Yeah. So, Daniel, we all know what that means. God is my judge. Hananiah, does anybody know what it means?
No.
Means Lord is gracious. Mishael means none is like God. Azariah means Lord is my help. And remember, all these people were named after God. They're named after him, what the meaning is. Peter?
How do you spell that word? What that means? God is grace?
God is gracious. Hananiah, it should be in your book right there in verse 6. It has all their names.
With H, right?
Yeah, Hananiah.
What was Azariah's name?
Azariah means Lord is my help.
Now Daniel, his name was God is my judge. That's in Hebrew. But then they changed the name to Belshazzar. Lady protect the king.
Yeah, so I have
kind of doubt.
what I have here is Daniel is now Belteshazzar, which means Bel, protect his life. So all these guys were named after God, for God, has something to do with being God's people. And now his name is now based off of this false god, Bel, and to be a protector of Bel's life. Peter.
What is Miss Hell?
Mishael?
Is like
None is like God. So these were 4 friends who were captured together by Nebuchadnezzar. The 3 most likely had noble blood in Judah as well. They were true to God, loyal to Him, and to each other. And later you'll see that they stick together through some really, really hard times. So, like I said, Daniel, Belteshazzar means Bel, protect his life. So God, or fake God, be a protector, or protect Daniel. Hananiah is now Shadrach, which means under the command of Aku. Aku is the moon god. So remember, they worship many different kinds of gods. So Aku was the moon god. And we, of course, worship the one and only God. Amen? Amen. Now Mishael is now Meshach, which means who is like Aku. And Azariah is now Abednego, which is servant of Nabu. Nabu is the god of learning and writing. So he changed their names from Hebrew names to Babylonian names to strip them from their past. Also, this was an attempt to change their religious loyalties from Judah's God, from our God, to Babylonian gods. They grew up in godly homes, so it's no wonder that the chief of eunuchs wanted to change their Jewish names, their godly names, their names that represent godly principles. And he gave them names that spoke of heathens. Does everybody know what a heathen is?
Yeah, like a bad person.
Pretty much. It's very, very broad. A heathen is anyone who worships idols or many gods. I also have one who is not a Christian, not a Jew, not a Muslim. A person who is regarded as rude, illiterate, or irreligious. But you see, they could change their names. They can change it to whatever they want. But they can't change their nature. Amen?
Amen.
So I'm going to go ahead and read.
I have a question.
Yes.
So you said that they can't change their names, but they can change their nature.
They can change their names, but they can't change their nature.
As Christians, because Christians aren't heathens, right?
Correct. So
we are capable of changing both, right? Because Christ gives us new names in Him, and he has us repent of our sins. So
that's a true statement. What I was really saying here was, you can do anything you want to these people who believe in God, but no matter what, you can't change their heart. And in their heart, they're always going to believe in God. They're always going to trust God. You can change their names. You can change their clothes. You can cut things off. You're still going to believe in God. That's what I mean. You can't change their nature. You know?
Okay.
And all of this name changing was all an attempt to do so.
Oh, okay. To try to get them to worship the king instead of
the
God.
king and the king's gods, and yeah.
Oh, okay.
So I'm going to read verse 8 through 14. Hopefully we can get through some of it. So I'm going to start. But Daniel was determined not to defile himself by eating the food and wine given to them by the king. He asked the chief of staff for permission not to eat these unacceptable foods. Now God had given the chief of staff both respect and affection for Daniel. But he responded, I am afraid of the Lord the king, who has ordered you to eat this food and wine. If you become pale and thin compared to the other youths your age, I am afraid the king will have me beheaded. Daniel spoke with the attendant who had been appointed by the chief of staff to look after Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah. Please test us for 10 days on a diet of vegetables and water, Daniel said. At the end of the 10 days, see how we look compared to the other young men who are eating the king's food. Then make your decision in light of what you see. The attendant agreed, and to Daniel's suggestion, and tested them for 10 days. So, can somebody read verse 8 again? Show of hands, anyone? Joseph?
But Daniel was determined not to defile himself by eating the food and wine given to him by the king. He asked the chief of staff for permission not to eat these unacceptable foods.
So Daniel denies the king's food. Does anybody know why he does this? Why to him this would be defiling himself? Joseph?
Well, I understand the wine, but the food would probably be some type of according to the testament, some type of maybe pork or something sinful that wouldn't be, something appointed by God.
That's pretty much it. Yeah. Matt, did you want to add something?
Because it was forbidden by the Jewish law, such as pork.
Yeah, so because he doesn't trust that it's pure, he knows the Babylonians worship pagan gods. He doesn't know if this food, this meat, has actually been offered to these gods as sacrifice, as showing grace to these gods. He doesn't want anything that has to do with this food. He doesn't know if it's pure, and he doesn't want to risk it. Some food like pork were also forbidden by Jewish law. In Leviticus chapter 11, it explains a lot of what you can eat and what you can't eat. So Leviticus chapter 11, 11:9. There's a lot of stuff in Leviticus 11. So right here, let's see.
Was Babylon by the, was, I don't know if it was by the sea. Was it by the sea? Oh, so it was by the sea then.
Yeah.
Oh, so they would have shellfish too then.
Yeah, so it actually says right here in Leviticus, then the Lord said to Aaron, "You and your descendants must never drink